you have your beautiful scale that gives you an indication of where the scores are better than others. And here we want to be between 10 and 50, because here we have people who and listen to all perspectives. They don't have too many preconceptions. They're capable of understanding the mistakes and improve and work on themselves. And there's just openness. Okay. Careful. So as you move down the scale, obviously you move towards criticism and judgment and discrimination and division. But as you move up, it's very interesting. Always pay attention to the high scores, because highest does not mean best behavior or best performing behavior. So when you have a really high understanding, people will obviously show acceptance and tolerance and active listening and all of that, but they will be overly understanding, meaning that they might say yes or agree to things that they don't really agree with. So it becomes a people-pleasing dynamic more than an intelligence and a relational skill or behavior. I hope I made this clear. If it isn't, bring the questions into our Q&A meetings. We want to intersect understanding with other traits. This is the art of this tool. It's not reading the columns by themselves, but it is reading them in synergy with each other. So when you have high understanding, high tolerance, high openness with low determination, determination, remember, is the trait that keeps you goal-oriented, that keeps you focused on what you want, able to ask what you need and able to get it. Okay, so it's assertiveness. So if I have a lot of tolerance, a lot of understanding, but I have a low determination, it's the second red column, determination. It might mean that you have a bit of a yes man syndrome. Okay, there's a whole part on syndromes and we will dive into that, but it might mean that you're a bit of a yes man syndrome. When you have low understanding, so you're not tolerant and you are very assertive with high determination, this will mean that you might tend to be judgy and discriminative and divisive and critical. So you might unintentionally be able to convince other people, but you also tend to interrupt communication and you talk over other people and you tend to impose your own perspective, okay? When you have low understanding, so low tolerance and low centrality, remember centrality is that trait, it's all those behaviors that keep us in an internal locus of control, that keep us as the cause of what is happening to our life, as the creators of our life. Okay, so when you have low tolerance and low centrality, you might be a little bit touchy and judgy and resentful, and you might show a little bit of animosity. You might also have this kind of latent passive aggressiveness or latent anger. Whereas with low understanding, tolerance, openness. So if I don't have that, I am judgy and discriminative and divisive and critical. And high extroversion, I will just talk all over everybody. I will talk much more than I listen. I will interrupt. I will not create space for anybody in that conversation except for me. Last but not least, I have low understanding trait. So I am critical and judgy and divisive and discriminative. And I have pressure management also low. It means that I'm under pressure, so I'm extremely reactive. I might be also in some emotional turmoil, and this means more often than not that I live in a toxic environment. So we've already looked at pressure management, and when that trait is low, it means that my environment, my people environment is toxic. Some of it, all of it, it depends. But when I have low pressure management, and low understanding. There is a toxic environment and also a lot of friction. Okay, so there might be verbal disagreements, there might be conflict, and all of that. Very sad dynamics. So how do we want to improve a low trait? We want to help our person to practice asking questions rather than jumping to conclusions. And coaches and consultants and counselors and therapists are great at doing this. We've trained our whole life to do this. So for us, it's kind of natural, but our clients might not know how to do this. So we need to teach them this form of listening and verbalizing questions. Oh, help me understand. What do you mean by this? And why do you believe this? And what is your point? And how did you come to understand and decide this? So they need to learn how to ask open-ended, curious, interested questions. They also need to train their eyes to see more positive aspects of the people that they tend to criticize. Their eyes go towards the faults and the mistakes rather than the wins and the beautiful thing that person withholds. So we need to train their eyes, their attention to shift. We also need to teach them to analyze the situation from a different perspective. Sometimes these people are so ego consumed that are unable to really imagine another historical, cultural, economic context, so they cannot relate. So we must teach them how to do that. So we want to teach them or help them stay in an emotional state of curiosity, of openness, and I'm sure you all have exciting exercises to do this. We can discuss more in our Q&A sessions. Make sure that if you're a team leader and one of your team members has a low understanding trait, check when you give them instructions, because they're not really good at listening. This also is also for all of us coaches and consultants. If you speak with someone who has a low understanding trait, be sure they're not really listening. So they're either distracted or uninterested or criticizing inside their heads. So we must always make sure that they understand, that they are listening, that they are with us. Okay? Wonderful. Well, thank you for staying with me for another lesson, and let's continue exploring the relational behaviors of the EPA test. The next one coming up is empathy.